Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Mediatwits. I'm Mark Glazer, Executive Editor of PBS Media Shift. Today we'll be talking about Facebook's new Paper app, its own take on news aggregation, pulling in stories from Facebook in a very brightly designed way, kind of a Flipboard-like app that not only lets you look at Facebook updates and share your own updates, but also looking at other news from other sources and kind of pulling them up all on your iPhone. Before we get into talking about the apps, I want to introduce our esteemed panel. We have Andrew Lee from American University. We have Claire Grodin, our Mediatwits intern. And coming back for another round of torture, Felix Salmon from Reuters, always in focus, no matter where he goes. And Michael Reckow, product manager at Facebook, is joining us from the Menlo Park campus. And Sarah Evans from Seven Strategy, our social and digital guru, is joining us as well. So Michael, first tell us about, you're at the Creative Labs at Facebook, kind of its own little skunk works within Facebook. You guys came out with the Paper app, and The Verge came out with the story saying it's the most beautiful Facebook app yet, which I guess is a little bit of a sideways slam on the actual Facebook app. But tell us about kind of the idea behind this app. What is Paper all about? Is this the newspaper that Mark Zuckerberg has been promising for so long?
Yeah, so we started out with a few goals. First was to give people a new way to share their stories with their friends, and that's what a lot of people do on Facebook, but also with the world if they want to. And one way that we've done that in Paper is to give people new formats. So we've built this full screen photo format, for example, where the photo shows up taking up the full screen of your phone, and you can use the phone to rotate it and look around the photo. And we've also built a full screen video format and a long text format. So that's, I think, the first thing people notice when they open up Paper is that the same stories and the same people that they're used to seeing on Facebook are now presented in a new way, and we're really excited to see what people will use these formats for to share in a new way. That was one thing that we did with Paper, and then the other thing that we set out to do was to help people who are producing really high-quality content find an audience through Facebook, and on the other side, help people who are interested in something, whether it's food or photography or sports, to discover stories from people who are sharing really great content. And so we design these sections so that after you look at the stories from your friends, you can flip over and see the food stories that you're interested in, or sports, or anything else. And so we're hoping that that will connect these producers on one side with people who are interested in the content on the other side.
And what do you think? I mean, how do you decide some of the stories that appear? You have these sections, like you noted, the sports section, news section, there's food, there's all these different things with stories that pop up. How do you decide what stories and what publishers get in there, and how can Media Shift get in there?
So we're really data-driven at Facebook, so that sort of is a core thing that underlies everything that we do. Now, as we're launching, we're starting to get the data from how people use it, and so that will be something that evolves as we see more people use it and we see how they use it. And with that data, we use a few different approaches to gather those stories. One is using some of the tools that we have, like trending, where we can see what people are talking about, what is becoming more popular, and also things like our graph search that help to find stories that people are writing about different topics and sharing them publicly on Facebook. And then the other thing is we have a team of curators who are looking around and seeing what's popular in each of these communities, whether it's food or photography, and helping to flag things and say this is a new up-and-coming food blogger or a new up-and-coming journalism website that really is telling an interesting take on the story, and this should be there. And together, between the curators and the algorithms, we're crafting these sections. And a lot of people have asked, like, this seems different than how Facebook normally does things with a bunch of algorithms. And I think with this, you mentioned we're in this Creative Labs umbrella, and we sort of looked at the problem and we said, how can we solve this in a way that produces a great quality section? And it doesn't have to be the way that Facebook's always done things. And we found, people are actually really good at things. I mean, it's we don't believe that it's going to be a world where it's just the machines kind of choosing everything that you want to read, and so I think there's a really important role that people play in helping to identify up and coming and great content, and also helping to organize and present it in a beautiful way. You know, a beautifully crafted magazine is something that only a person can put together, and so we're really excited about how people can put an interesting texture on the content.
And you guys only came up with iPhone only for this first version. There's no Android version, there's no iPad version, there's no international version. Some people have said this is kind of a first test, a first step towards kind of features that might go into the actual Facebook app itself. What is your thinking about how this will be developed for all these other platforms?
Yeah, so we're a small team, about 15 people. We started kind of like a startup where you want to build one product that hopefully is really good and that people enjoy. And you know, we've been really excited by the feedback so far and great App Store rating. And so far, you know, I think we're finding a group of people that like it, and you know, we're going to grow it from there, and so grow to other platforms and internationally and whatnot. But we're just trying to start and do something that hopefully the people who try it out like it, and then we can learn from that and make it better.
Fair enough. Andrew, I'm curious, what do you think about how paper compares to the other readers that are out there? I know we've all used Flipboard and talked about what they've done. Some of them taken some flack for just the way that they aggregate publishers' content without, you know, kind of stripping out the ads, etc. How do you think paper kind of fits in with the competition, which there's lots out there, but none of them have really succeeded as far as the business goes?
Yeah, I mean, I actually like the overall concept of paper, so I commend Facebook for doing something different and actually takes advantage of a lot of what iOS 7 tries to do on the iPhone. One thing that kind of, probably because I'm getting old and becoming a fogey, that was distracting for me is I thought the font was very small, and I don't know if you're getting that same feedback from folks, but you know, I use SkyGrid, Flipboard, and then the Facebook app, and those fonts are just around that threshold where I can read it and it's pretty good. But if you look at the screens on paper, the text is quite small, and I guess that's, you want to emphasize the images, and there's a lot of white space there. So I'm wondering whether you could talk a little bit about the decisions on that, or whether there's any way to increase that font size.
Is that because your eyesight's hurting, Andrew, or just?
I'm getting really old. I can't read stuff on these tiny screens anymore.
Yeah, on the font size, it's an interesting piece of feedback that we're certainly keeping a close eye on. One thing we've done with paper is we provide this sort of zoomed out mode where you can see what's going on through a bunch of stories and quickly scan through and find something that catches your eye. And then we allow you to flip it upwards. And what we're finding is a lot of people browse through those full screen stories, which the nice thing about it, the font size in that mode is bigger, and you get to focus on one piece of content at a time. And that's something we've tried to design into paper, is that we don't think that everything that is really high quality and meant to be shared and read should share space with other ideas. That people in this day and age, there's a lot of talk that people, you know, are always distracted and reading a lot of things at once. And we think you can actually build a great experience that focuses on one piece of content at a time. So we're excited to see how people use that story-by-story view, where you can just zoom in on one story and look at it, and we hope that allows people to spend a little bit more time with quality content.
Felix, I'm curious, what do you think about kind of the business model around a lot of these aggregation apps? We've seen so many of them before, and yet none of them have really. I mean, Flipboard has received tons of money in funding, but what do you think about this? What do you think about paper as far as within kind of Facebook's revenues? And I mean, obviously this is an early project, but what do you see as the business potential for it at Facebook?
Well, I don't know. You probably asked Michael that one rather than me. I mean, a lot of it doesn't make sense to me, I have to say. In a world where we have Pulse, we have Flipboard, we have SkyGrid, we have, you know, any number of people trying to create things like this, and in a world where the Facebook graph is relatively open, and so, you know, anyone can sort of plug into it. I don't entirely understand what is the problem which needs a solution here. I think paper does certain things which those do, and maybe it does a couple of things which those don't do, but it's a sort of incremental thing, and I'm not entirely clear on why Facebook needs a different sort of standalone app to do that, and I certainly don't understand why Facebook needs to give it the same name as my favorite app on the iPad, which I know that the good folks at 53 are rather upset about.
Yeah, Michael, do you want to talk about that at all, just the name issue?
Yeah,
the business model.
Yeah, on the name, we named Paper as a sort of homage to that experience of opening up your morning paper and getting a glimpse into what's going on in the world and being able to sit back and spend time with it. On the business model, we're starting out, as you know, without ads in the product, really trying to focus on building the product experience out. But certainly, down the road, we'll explore. There's a lot of things that are possible to do in terms of newsfeed monetization and things like that. But our focus right now is just on building a product that solves a few key problems. And to the question of kind of what problems are there to be solved, we actually don't think that there is a great solution out there prior to paper to solve this key problem, which is when you want to share, there are a few things that matter to you. You want to share with an audience that you're trying to reach, whether it's your friends or the world, and you want great tools to share. And great tools have quality presentation, and they also connect audiences. And that is something that you've seen development of on the web with things like Medium and other new platforms for sharing with beautiful tools. But no one has connected the tools and the audience in a way that is organized and optimized for a mobile phone. And you certainly see newsreaders out there that put sort of a barrage of links that are all presented in the same format, and kind of the personality is stripped out from the content that you read. And we think it's really important that the personality of each story and the brand behind each story and the journalists behind each story, we show the byline and give attribution to, when you come across a New York Times article, you can tell where it came from. We think all those things are really important in terms of how you tell a story, and that a mobile device should have a great way to do that.
So wait, so this is something which I guess I didn't, in my brief playing around with the app, didn't manage to find. So if I find something on the internet which I want to share with my friends, I know how to do that on Facebook, but there's a different way that I can do that on paper, and I can take that link and I can sort of I have a bit more control over what it looks like to my friends when I share it over paper. Is that it?
Exactly. So in paper, if you swipe down, go to the app menu, you can create a new post. And we think any great publishing tool, and that's really how we view paper, it's not just a way to see what's going on, but to publish. And any good network, what we're trying to build is really a network that connects people and the producers of great content together. It's a two-way street. Any great network should have quality tools to share. So the first thing to build a quality publishing tool is you need to show people what their post is going to look like after they post it. They need to see what they're going to be sharing and see what people are going to how people are going to encounter that post. So we've started with paper in building a tool like that. When you go to create a post, we show you a preview of the post, a live preview that dynamically changes as you add things, and you can see, if you want to type more, the text is going to get smaller. And we don't tell you that you can't write a long post. We're not about putting a character count on your voice. It's just if you write more, it's going to be smaller, and if you write less, it's going to be bigger. And we think that will give people the tools to share even higher quality stories. If you look at a network like Instagram, what Instagram really is a set of amazing tools and an audience paired together. The tools to crop a photo and to filter it and to make it beautiful, and the people, the world that you want to share with. And so we thought about paper from that perspective of the tools paired with the audience.
And Sarah, I'm curious what you think as someone who's always kind of on social media and using it. In playing around with paper, did you feel like the way you share or create a post or an update on paper just is leaps and bounds above what it is on the typical Facebook app? I mean, I thought it was definitely more interesting and easier and looked a hell of a lot better.
my eyes had a sigh of relief when I opened the app. I really, really enjoyed it, and I have to tell you, I'm a lefty, so using the app was really convenient when you're swiping. I've seen some different posts, people talking about the right thumb swipe versus the left thumb swipe, and I quite enjoy being able to use it. And I've been putting a lot of thought into this because we're having a segment here dedicated to this app, and I really feel like sometimes, and myself included, we live in this time of technology entitlement and forget for a minute how amazing it is what has been created, and how a company like Facebook, that now they're 10 years old, can still reinvent themselves and invent new options for their consumers. So I think I'm in the camp of people who are excited to see what's going to happen, and I know I couldn't create something like this myself, and I'm a user, so I'm really happy with it.
Andrew, I'm curious, what do you think about kind of the aspects of, I know in Flipboard you kind of create your own magazines, they made a big push towards that, and with this, Facebook and their editors, there's obviously a human element. They're going to decide, according to Michael, which publications go in there according to what's trending, etc. But you don't, at the moment, have the ability to kind of create your own news channel. Do you think that might be something they'll add or something that's necessary, or do you think that they're already doing a decent job?
Yeah, I thought that was curious. When you went in, you had to choose one of, like, was it 19 or 15? I can't remember how many, kind of prepackaged sections. And I thought that was a good start, but certainly folks are going to want to really drill down and do, searches and start to filter that on their own. I guess because you're experimenting with what these little white boxes look like as you scroll around there, you need to somehow curate that a little bit more than just having a naked search in the content. Because right now, the thing that struck me was that the reason why I think it was a little bit jarring to see a lot of these little items there is that some of those boxes have a really nice large graphic which really stand out, and then some have these tiny little, postage stamp of a postage stamp pictures there that are hard to see. So I guess, my desire would be for Facebook to allow for better management of images when you do Facebook posts and things like that. When you put a link to a website, you can kind of choose one of 2 or 3 images on there. But I guess with this, my question would be, does paper now kind of drive some of the features in Facebook's website because this is going to be the way that people experience things? Or
this is like a one-way flow, right? That if I post on Facebook, then some of those posts are going to appear on paper, but not the other way around. If I post something on paper, you're not going to see it on Facebook.
You will. It's all part of the same network, so it's your same friends and the same posts in both.
Okay.
So I guess the question is paper's move forward with such a graphical look now kind of driving some of the changes in the web interface, or how is that working out there?
Yeah, we're really excited to see what people do with these formats. You mentioned how some stories are large photos, some are smaller photos. That's based on the resolution. So if you upload a really high resolution widescreen photo, it'll show up large. If it's smaller, it'll show up smaller. And so that's one thing when you introduce new formats to people, you can see how the existing content looks in the format, but almost what's most exciting is how people are going to create new content for the formats. You think about, as people are going out and taking a photo or a video, people more and more are thinking about, well, how am I going to share this with my friends or with the world? And you actually think about the format as you're taking the video. An example is portrait videos. So when TVs were the main place that you would watch a video, people would record videos in landscape because TVs are landscape. But now more and more people are not only taking videos on their phones, but they're watching videos on their phones. And the natural way to hold a phone is in portrait. And so one thing we're excited to see is now, as we create a way to watch a portrait full-screen video, how people will now start to be able to take videos in that more natural way. So,
oh no, you're adding to the bad habit of portrait videos.
Well, that's the interesting thing there. Is, of course, it's there's been a lot of talk about that's a bad habit. But what it really is a symptom of is there aren't great tools to display and view portrait videos. That's why people haven't liked them, and we think that's just a limitation of the tools. And as people innovate and build interesting new things, that will change the way that you tell stories. So we're really excited about that. It's obviously day 3, and so we're starting to have people explore around these tools and see what they can do with them.
And I just wanted to bring up another thing. Peter Kafka at Recode had done this graph and chart showing that Facebook now is referring a ton more traffic to news stories than it was previously. He did a chart comparing Google search referrals and Facebook referrals literally just went through the roof over the last few months. So obviously there's a big focus on news referrals coming from Facebook, and I'm guessing that this app will just drive even more views from Facebook to news. I mean, Felix, do you see kind of a change in the way that Facebook is important for news publishers now?
Well, Facebook has become the monster for news publishers, and clearly, I mean, it's massive. Clearly, paper's not going to make the blindest bit of difference for the foreseeable. As Michael says, it's 3 days old. So the reason it's so big is because it has this unbelievably enormous user base, and it has over the past few months made a move to putting more news articles in people's news feeds and driving those people to those external news sites, which has been great for the news sites, all of whom are sort of on the one hand going, yay, we're getting all of this traffic, and on the other hand going, how long is this going to last, and why did they turn it on, and when might they turn it off, and we don't know what Facebook is doing, and we're a little bit worried about getting used to this, because
and we saw that with Google too, where they changed the algorithm.
It's not under our control. So that's it's a bit unclear, what Facebook changed, why Facebook changed it, whether this is a permanent thing, whether publishers can or should expect this to last. All of these questions are kind of unanswered.
Yeah, Sarah, what do you see when it comes to referrals? We as publishers always are trying to hit all the different social networks and figure out different ways to get attention. I mean, is it kind of a constant game of figuring out how Google might change their algorithms, how Facebook might decide what it's going to, put at the top of the feed, what tips and tricks you have to do to keep your content in front of people? It seems like kind of a constant need for updating and figuring out.
Whoops, sorry, I was on mute.
That's okay.
It is a constant game, and in fact, I mean, SEO experts, SEM experts, I'm constantly seeking out people who have inner knowledge or find things that work. In fact, I don't know if any of you in this room are, I'm a member of a social journalism group in Facebook. It's an off-the-record group, but many of us share best practices and things that we're learning there because it's the only way we can stay on top of what's happening because things do change so quickly. And in fact, that group is so beneficial because there's a Facebook employee in there. There are people we can actually get answers from quickly as things are changing. So I have found, of course, being on top of knowledge is important, but making sure that you have connections. If you're a top tier publisher, or you're dependent on your publishing, making sure that you're well connected, that you're seeking out peers who also have similar goals, so that you can work together to stay knowledgeable.
And even though Facebook has been talking about, and Mark Zuckerberg has been talking about this newspaper idea, the digital newspaper, I still think of Facebook, and I think most of my friends do, as a place to catch up on, updates from people's personal lives. And news seems to be still a sideline. Andrew, have you noticed that? I mean, is there a change in behavior that you see among different people using Facebook where it is more of a news source than it was in the past?
Yeah, to me it hasn't really. I think it is part of the diet. I don't see it at this point being the main part of the diet when it comes to news consumption, but I'm completely I completely understand for some users in Facebook it is probably their primary news source. So to me, it is using a trusted circle of folks that I think are intelligent and high signal, low noise to send me the news that I think should be required reading for that day. But to me, it's a supplement rather than the primary stream of news.
Andrew, do you feel like you have control over the signal to noise ratio? Because it seems to me that that's entirely in the hands of Facebook, like whose articles they share, which articles they share is not really a function of who your friends are, and it's much more a function of what Facebook woke up this morning thinking that it wanted to get shared.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, but that's also some of the nice part of it too. So you got the serendipity of this quirky, weird, unpredictable stream of stuff that you're not sure what subject it's going to be. You're not sure exactly what the priority is going to be, but they're from people you trust and know, and that's the most important thing. And I think that's something that's very hard to build. That's something Facebook right now has an exclusive hold on at this point, and they're in pretty good power position in that area.
Michael, I'm curious just from the view inside Facebook and even at the Creative Labs about kind of the importance of news and just different usage that you're seeing just among different areas. I mean, I'm guessing there's what, billion-plus people using Facebook, so we can talk about our own personal circles and what we think about where news fits into consumption. But have you seen anything even within Facebook about the way people use it for news?
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting stories if you look back, and it's sort of people are talking about the last 10 years of Facebook, and if you take that as an opportunity to look back and see what people have changed over time and have shared over time and how that has changed, you'll see that when newsfeed started, it was just a bunch of profile updates. And if you look back at the original newsfeed, it was like this person likes cats and this person moved to this new city. And if you look at your newsfeed now, it's just completely different. And in part, that's because Facebook has built new tools to share. Now you can share photos and other things like that. But it's largely driven by what people are sharing and what people want to share on the site. So Facebook, observed that more people were posting links to articles, and so we've worked on how to present those links in a way that, all the way to paper now, showing the logo of the publisher in the byline and making that a richer experience. So a big thing we do is we see what people are sharing and we respond to that and try to make better tools. I mean, recently now, so many people are carrying high-resolution cameras and video cameras in their pockets, and so when we look at paper and something we want to build, we want to make it really great for sharing high-resolution photos. You never would have built a newsfeed like that 5 years ago because people weren't taking and sharing those nearly as much. So I think with the uptick in traffic on news, it's really a reflection of people sharing high-quality articles that other people want to click on and experience. And that's how the newsfeed and how paper, they're really responsive to what people are sharing, and if people share more of it and people like more of it, then they'll see more and they'll drive more traffic.
But Michael, I mean, something changed, right?
Share high quality stuff.
So something changed around sort of October last year, where the amount of news that Facebook put into the news feed just started going way up, and it has not stopped going up since then. That wasn't just like the entire world coincidentally suddenly started sharing news stories more than they used to be. That was a conscious decision somewhere within Facebook, and I'm assuming that the paper works the same way. That right now you have a very high percentage of news articles as a percentage of everything on paper, and that's maybe reflective of what's also in the Facebook newsfeed. But then again, if the Facebook newsfeed evolves into something else and maybe goes back to being more about your personal, social updates, then the same thing might happen to paper. Is that fair enough?
Well, I think that's one of the interesting things about the paper sections. If you've been able to browse around and look at them, people talk a lot about is there some sort of bias towards one type of content or another? But if you look at paper, it's actually a wide spectrum of different things. We have a whole section devoted to cute animals and cute things that you can find online. There are a lot of puppies, pandas. I saw
it's important stuff
yesterday.
I hear that sloths are very cool right now.
It's essential to internet culture.
Yeah, I mean, and so Facebook is always just going to reflect what people are sharing. All of those are real stories that people have shared, And I actually think that'll be one of the more popular sections and one of the sections we put a lot of thought into crafting. And so those sections and their popularity and the stuff in them is going to be driven by what people like and share and want to see. And so that's the nice thing in how a network like Facebook is able to evolve and stay something that people want to look at, is that the content needs to evolve and represent what they're interested in.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate the discussion. It was we'll definitely follow paper as it evolves and changes, and all the kind of news aggregators that are out there.
Can I squeeze in very quickly?
Yes.
Just
squeeze yourself
with my last question, which is talking about this and the evolution. Is the name set? Can you walk us a little bit through that decision to Bigfoot on poor paper, the Apple's app of the year in 2012, which is a great app, and now suddenly it's number 2 for that name?
Yeah, I can't get into any more detail there other than sort of the background on why we named it, and it's really about giving people that experience of their morning paper, and something that's tactile is where we went with naming it.
You have to talk to their branding lawyer, Felix, for that one. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. Andrew Lee from American University, Claire Groden, Mediatwits intern, Felix Salmon from his high-rise in Manhattan, Michael Reckhow from Facebook in Menlo Park, Sarah Evans, social media and digital strategist. Join us every week on Mediatwits, PBS Media Shift at mediashift.org, and we'll see you each and every week. Have a great week, everyone.